Greetings. What's one thing we look at every day? I don't know about you. I can tell you for sure I look at the weather every day. However, today we are going to learn about weather, what's possible, what's happening, how many places all around the world, including in, of course, the United States, many sports games, different events, they use the weather for productivity. And of course, whatever we do in our life, the weather has a great effect on that one. In case you don't know me, my name is Mohammed Siddique. I'm the host of Growth Hacking Show, and I'm the co-author of New Success Secrets, which you can see it right here. With me, my special guest, he's a serial entrepreneur. He founded another first company, was very successful, and we are going to learn so much about him. And then he started as a passion. Working on weather patterns was his passion. Then recently he started to say, you know what, he is so good at it, why not turn this passion into a kind of profit machine as a commercial intent. So while he is working on his passion, he can make money too. So we have so much to learn from people who are passionate about certain things, but they don't know how to convert a passion into profit. So we probably can learn a thing or two from our guest. So please join me to give a warm welcome to my guest, Edward Mansouri from Tallahassee, Florida. He is the founder and CEO of WeatherSTEM.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Glad to have you. Thank you so much. Ed, let me start with this. Where were you? What happened? Who you were surrounded with that inspired you to get into your passion on WeatherSTEM, and now you are working as a great company?
Well, I have been passionate about weather since a young child. I grew up in a part of the country where we would sometimes get 2 feet of snow or 3 feet of snow overnight. So from a very young age, I was sparked with a real curiosity in how to understand this weather phenomena. And I set as my goal from a very young age to go to college for meteorology. And I actually, after I graduated from college, I started a technology business that was focused on educational software. And I ran that for about 17 years, but my heart was always being pulled back toward weather. And my WeatherSTEM program actually started when I began building weather education modules for K through 12 students. And then I got the idea to set up weather stations at schools where we would take the data and information these weather stations collect and incorporate it into the educational platform. So that's how I got started into this program, and it's very rewarding for me personally to be in a career now that is so tightly coupled with my lifelong passion of weather.
Oh, that's amazing. So please share with us more a little bit how you transition from passion into as a kind of business, you know.
Well, I think WeatherSTEM is my second technology company.
Yes.
The first technology company that I ran was an online educational software company. And that, long story short, I saw a need. This was in the late 90s. I saw a need for colleges and universities to have a platform that would let them put courses and academic programs on the internet. But that wasn't really my passion. I saw an economic opportunity, and I pursued it, and ended up, I was very fortunate through hard work and some good luck. I was able to be very profitable with it. But WeatherSTEM has been very different. With WeatherSTEM, I've sort of willed myself to creating a business opportunity. I've sort of started with, what is my passion? What do I really love? What do I love talking about? What do I love studying? And the answer to that question for me has always been weather. So for me, with WeatherSTEM, I've started with my passion, and then from there, I've said, how can I connect this passion to different business opportunities? And I'll be honest with you, it's been sort of a rough road. It has not been a very smooth sailing. The STEM in WeatherSTEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And the first business effort that I was trying with this program was, quite frankly, developing weather education modules. But there's a very small market for that. It's a very niche product, and I've quickly learned that WeatherSTEM would not be capable of surviving exclusively as a weather education provider. So I've started to look to other horizons. So WeatherSTEM has gotten into the health and safety realm. Of course, weather is a very big and important part of that. We've gotten into the agricultural realm. Of course, weather and agriculture are inextricable from one another. We've gotten into a platform that supports athletic facilities, both as far as monitoring things like the water content of the turf and the level of heat on the athletic playing surface. So again, it has not been very smooth sailing. It's been more, how can I find business opportunities that my passion is connected with? And sometimes I think that just takes patience and determination, and most importantly, a positive attitude, for me anyway.
Positive attitudes, and you are thinking out of box basically. So you keep thinking out of box. How can I connect with my passion into the real life? That's.
Yes, and there has to be I think there has to be a compromise, because there's even a saying, a starving artist. There are a lot of very, very talented people, whether they be computer programmers or artists or musicians, that have the ability to do phenomenal work, but for some reason they're unable to connect it to a challenge that needs to be solved. And they're unable to catalyze and realize a business opportunity from it. So I'm probably, to be honest, I'm probably not too far removed from that. I developed a passion for education while I was running my educational software company. I developed a real appreciation for especially the technological aspect of it. How can we develop technology that better facilitates learning and teaching? So I did start to develop a passion for education. So early on with WeatherSTEM, I was focused on how can I connect the education with the weather, but it just turns out at this juncture, there are just not enough problems looking to be solved in that realm. So I have been able to be somewhat creative at finding other opportunities to focus my passion. So here we are, and we're now doing a lot of work in emergency management and health and safety and agriculture. And we'll see where we go from here, but I'm very excited. I love what I do because it's connected to weather.
Yeah, great wisdom. Thank you. Thank you. So Ed, you are a serial entrepreneur. You had a very nice exit from your learning management system to now you are WeatherSTEM on this one. So based on your experience, what are the top 3 missteps to avoid to grow your business?
Well, I think the biggest challenge that I had, and I try to be very reflective of the mistakes that I feel I made. It's fun to celebrate your successes, but it's humbling to really think and really ruminate on the mistakes you made. And I think for me, I always struggled with the very fine line between when should you start hiring people versus when should you start, when should you, do things on your own. And I think that I had made some mistakes early on, is that I waited too long to build a sales infrastructure. Okay. And I think that I got to the point where my product was mature, and I'm talking about my previous company, my UCompass company. I got to the point where my product was mature. It was being used in some very reputable environments. It was generating income. We had the money to build a sales infrastructure, but we were a little too conservative. Okay, so I think that there's a very fine line between being too conservative and being too reckless and going and hiring a bunch of people that you don't need. Okay, so that's sort of.
Got it.
Okay. A big mistake that I made with my former company was not hiring the proper sales infrastructure when that was needed, and trying to do all of the technical development while also overseeing the sales efforts. You can't do both successfully once you start really generating sales opportunities. Another thing that was a critical mistake, I think in some ways is sort of the opposite, was bringing on people that I didn't need. All right. And that's why early on in my company's business, I was a one-man show for a long time. And I used to hide behind that. When the conversation would come up as far as, well, how many employees do you have? I would always, try to, include the lawn guy and the cleaning person, and try to make my staff look as big as possible. And I think that over the course of time, I started to realize that that thought process was bleeding into my HR decisions. And in many instances, I was hiring people that I did not need. Okay. And I think that, just being very sincere about where your business is and being if for me, I will never judge a company's strength by the number of people they have. I would much rather have a fewer number of really good people than a whole bunch of mediocre people. HR, dealing with employees, they're a necessary evil, but it is a real challenge. It can be a real drain. Companies of all shapes and sizes have political and bureaucratic issues, no matter where you are. So I think, those two challenges that I've presented are sort of opposites of one another. One was I made some mistakes being too conservative. I didn't hire the appropriate sales personnel when I should have. And another mistake was I added too many people to my technological staff when I didn't really need them. And one of the rules of thumb that I learned, and I'm going to let your viewers in on a little secret I learned, is if you have an employee, a test for an employee's usefulness or uselessness, if they go away on a vacation for a week and you don't miss them, there's a really good chance you don't need them.
Oh my God, that's a secret.
Yeah, that is something that I learned. I've had both. I've had employees that have been like, they've come back and I didn't even realize they were gone. And I've had others that have been like, oh, thank God you're back. And then I think, also a third mistake that I think is a little bit more qualitative in nature, that I think has to do more with personality, is just, I alluded to it earlier, is being positive. There's a lot of negative things that happen in business. First of all, I think human nature, sad as it is, there's a lot of people that enjoy seeing others fail more than they enjoy seeing others succeed. Okay. So I personally, found a lot of negativity, a lot of skepticism when I started my first business, even from my own family. What do you mean you're starting an e-learning software company? You have a meteorology degree. What do you know about running an e-learning software business? Okay. And if that was my family, imagine what some of my other peers were saying. So I think then of course, when you start going and develop there's a huge canyon. So developing an idea, implementing it, and then getting people to use that for free, and then getting people to pay for it. There's a huge canyon between those two goalposts. And in that canyon is a lot of negativity, is a lot of disappointment, is a lot of self-doubt. And I think the successful entrepreneurs are the ones that it's not that they have a lack of self-doubt and negativity. They have a persistence in spite of it. Okay, so I think at certain points along the way, I let that negative voice creep into my head too much. And that detracted some otherwise what could have been some very lucrative further growth with my business. So those are sort of, the things that really jump out at me, early on. And of course, I think, a trained business person will talk more about, recognizing what problem. And here's another one, if I could add maybe an asterisk to maybe a fourth one, is really recognizing for me, I sometimes had a habit of creating solutions that were looking for problems. Okay. So in other words, I would let my passion and my ideas get the better of me. And I'd be so excited about how much I enjoyed them that I wasn't really keeping the big picture in mind as far as what business problem is this solving? Because if it's not solving a business problem, no one's going to pay you for it. And eventually you're going to run out of money. So I think that's something that I found myself guilty of on more than one occasion in both my businesses, in both UCompass and WeatherSTEM, is that I was just got too excited by the pure joy of creating that I lost sight for what problem was that creation solving and who was going to pay for it.
That's a great one-liner whenever you're developing something in your product, always think which problem is going to solve for your customer. Not if it's like a feature freak, keep building the features and it's not solving a problem. If not tied up to the solution to the problem, no one is going to pay for it. You are paying for it with your own. I mean, thank you so much, Ed. That's a great wisdom. And now we shift the side to, now we want to know the good side of you. That was all the experiences of the hard lessons. And that is based on your experience. What are the top 3 success secrets to grow your business? Because you have been there, done that.
Well, I think one of the most important ones, I think, is to just, there's a saying that I think it's attributed to the CEO of a very successful hotel chain that said, you can be successful in business working only half days. And it doesn't matter which 12 hours you choose. See, so in other words, the mindset of a half day that a lot of your friends and peers that have office jobs, which will be maybe 8 to 12 or 12 to 5, the mindset of a half day for an entrepreneur has to be very different. Okay. And I think that the key for me is I was I was an athlete. I played sports growing up. And I feel for me that the lessons I learned on the athletic field were as or even more important as the lessons I learned, in school. Because I think I can point to one situation where I was going to give a presentation for a sale, a pretty important sale. And I had to, at 8 o'clock that next morning, I had to demonstrate a certain feature of our program that did not exist yet. All right, and I knew I'd be able to do it, but I just didn't know how much time it would take. So I was at my hotel at 3 in the morning, and the bed was screaming my name. Okay, but somehow I just pulled it out and stayed up until 6, maybe got a half an hour of sleep, and was able to finish it, and we got the contract. If I would have called it a night and went into bed and got some sleep, I guarantee you we would not have been able to demonstrate what the client was looking for, and we would have not gotten the contract. Okay, that same mindset is maybe what you might experience like in the 4th quarter of a game or the 9th inning of a baseball game or something like that. So that tenacity is the word I'm looking for. That endurance for me was the most important intangible above talent, above skill, above knowledge, is that endurance, right? Another thing that I think is very important is trusting your instincts. A lot of times your first instinct is your best instinct. And you want to take information and process it, but really if you're not feeling good about something, there's usually a reason for it. And you should get to the bottom of why you're not feeling that way. I've found that when I have followed that principle, things have gone very well for me. And when I have not followed that principle, things have not gone well for me. Okay, that's the bottom line. And I think also, another thing that I think is really important, two premises that I have for business is I think that if you're working with a customer, there's 2 things that you really need to focus on helping them with. Number 1 is make their life easier, okay? If you are able to bring a service or a product to your customer, and that is able to save them time or save them effort, they're never going to get rid of you, okay? They're always going to look at you as an indispensable provider. So I always will go into any business relationship looking at my responsibility is to make things easier for my customer with the job I'm performing for them or the problem that I'm helping them solve. And another thing you want to do is you want to make your partners and customers look good, okay? Do things that are going to help them get recognition. Do things that are going to help them get recognized. Do things that, if it's an individual employee that's at a company and they are responsible for contracting with you, do really good work for them. Help them get recognized. Help them get a promotion. At an organizational level, help that organization achieve some sort of recognition or status that is going to improve their overall visibility. So I think, those three things that I've just described are things whether you're selling computer software or lemonade or whatever, I think those things, the tenacity, focusing on making your customers' life easier and helping them achieve recognition are really indispensable in my view.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. I learned a lot, and I'm sure the people who are watching this, they still want to know more about you and your company. So as we move along, how you're growing WeatherSTEM, your company right now?
Well, we're growing it by just good old-fashioned hard work, and we're based here in Florida's capital, Tallahassee, and we set out to introduce this program via a philanthropy about 3 years ago, and we donated one of our programs to a school in all 67 of our state's counties, and that has led to some sort of word-of-mouth growth. And now we have about 25 counties that are actually paying us to bring our weather monitoring technology to their counties to help augment their public health and safety resources. We're also working with a number of universities that are using our technology to help augment their health and safety efforts, because increasingly weather is an increasingly important topic as far as safety is concerned, particularly in the realm of athletics. Every summer we hear terrible stories about student athletes experiencing heat loss. Sometimes there's even some fatalities. So we're also working on a number of exciting partnerships that we have. We have a few partnerships that are, I'm not able to mention any names yet because they're not finalized, but they're partnerships that we're very excited about. We'll be able to greatly increase our visibility and reach and scope.
Wonderful. Thank you. Wish you all the best on your great efforts going on to grow. So how Growth Hacking Show community can support you?
Well, I think that just by your kindness of bringing me on to tell my story and discuss our business is greatly appreciated. And we also feel that no matter what business you're in, no matter what industry you're in, weather plays a pivotal role in that. No matter if you're a grocery store, if you're a restaurant, if you're a movie theater, there's no business that is immune to the impacts of weather. If people can't drive to your store because the weather's too bad, you're going to lose sales. Okay, if you're an ice cream store and you're having a record cold outbreak, it's going to impact your sales. If you have a record heat outbreak, it might impact your sales positively. So I would definitely like to see more conversation continue to develop in the entrepreneurial community about the role weather plays in all business ventures. And in fact, one of the leading companies in the world, IBM, they have a new, relatively new artificial intelligence-based platform, Watson. Yeah. A lot of the personnel that work on that project are meteorologists. And in fact, the former director of that effort at IBM, a gentleman named David Kenny, I think he recently just took the job as CEO of Nielsen, but he was the director of IBM Watson, and before that he was the president and CEO of the Weather Company. So, when you think about companies like IBM are making multi-billion-dollar investments in weather technology, it really makes you think they must be onto something. And I think we're onto something too here at WeatherSTEM.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. As we are about to wrap up, what would you say as a final word, Ed?
Just a sincere thank you. I think that also entrepreneurs need to take advantage of the kindness and innovation and ingenuity of people like yourself who help let people like me tell their stories. And that is a wonderful way to get the word out about what you're doing and answer some very good questions that make you think and make you put things into perspective that maybe you haven't done for a while. So I want to thank you for the opportunity today.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ed, for sharing your wisdom with us today on the behalf of Growth Hacking Show community and our entire team. We really appreciate you. This is Mohammed Siddique signing off from Atlanta, Georgia, wishing you good luck, good sales, and I do Hope our path cross again with another amazing guest. Until then, all best wishes.
Thank you.